Hey guys, so in today's video we're going to talk about automation triggers. So to get to your automation piece, you go on the left hand side here and you click on automation. Now for the purpose of the video we are going to create a new automation, and this will bring us to our visual automation builder, which you can see on screen here with a blank canvas. Now triggers here on the top left hand side, these at the beginning of any workflow, automation journey, or maybe drip campaign in your Nevanto automation account. Now, this is based on behaviors, for example, like opening emails, clicking on links, maybe abandoning a cart or filling out forms and the likes. Now, you can also have, it can also, be based on API calls that you connected to your account. It could also be time based, so it doesn't have to wait for a specific behavior, more of a running daily or on a set of just a one-time action and things like that. Now I'm going to run through all the triggers here, unpack them all and how to use in one context. So first we're just going to go on the email piece here. Now just to note that this also includes SMS and web push pieces within here. So I'm just going to drag and drop the open email and the click email, just I'll that down a small bit. So firstly you can see here, just want to point out that you have need configuration text, which you'll probably see in all those. That means that this needs to be configured. So if you're ever doing a workflow and you see a need configuration text, be it on a trigger or a action, you just know that you have to configure that box. So just on the open and clicked, we just have something here for if a user opens an email, or also links that are clicked by a user. So this means if anything that the link that a user clicks, it then tracks behavior, be it in an email, SMS or web push. Now we also have the trigger reply to SMS. Now next we have the e-commerce. So we're just going to drag over the abandoned cart and the completed order. So if you have your e-commerce package, you have your e-com solution linked to your own platform account, then you can use the abandoned cart and completed order triggers. So next we have our user-based pieces. So we have joined, reached, goal and custom event. Now the joined would be filling out a form or maybe manually adding contacts from an external list. It could also be additions through an API calls or Zapier, etc. Now join is probably the most used trigger we probably have on our platform. We also, as I mentioned, we have reach, goals and custom event, which we will come to next. Now we also have specific time. Finally here we have the contact API. Now an API is usually, it waits for on a contact update. So again, we'll go through this in greater detail just to give you a bit of information on that. So you can see here that all the shaped triggers are in square shapes, whereas the actions are in circular shapes. Now we just have that specifically done just to be able to quickly see and diversify those visually on your automation visual builder. So firstly we were going to double click the open. So you see here we have two tabs. So the criteria tab is just your general information, and your target segmentation is where you can deep dive into your contacts to target a specific subset. So if we go back to the trigger criteria, we're just going to look at the label here firstly. So we would say that you should label this and putting in possibly the name of the email or some unique identifier so you'll know that it's linked to that specific email. It can be edited to whatever you wish. So just for this now, I'm just going to go opened January offer. So again, we suggest maybe putting in a date, month or year or something like that, because again you might have a lot of different automation pieces, so you just quickly want to just go in and just be able to identify those, just to make it a little bit easier for yourself. Now the email campaigns, as you can see here. So next, this is the actual email campaign that the email sent that you'll choose that you want to be linked to this open trigger. So it'll be the actual email that you want to track opens for to trigger the automation for. So you can see here firstly anything that in the brackets here that you can see draft. This means that it's your email campaign, or sorry, it's in your email campaign module and it has not yet been sent. Nextly, then here you can see sent. So sent is, again, it's in your email module campaigns for emails that have been sent. So it could be something like newsletter or one-off product update, for example. And then you'll see here then automated is an automated email from your workflows that you've built in your automation messages. So you can just take note of the different labels here in brackets against the different email campaigns, just so you know what type of campaign it's linked to, or if it's an automated message on your automated messages list. So if you choose one, just pick this one. So what this means now is if someone opens this email, it will trigger the workflow. And again, you can have multiple lists. You could pick maybe 2 here, so you can have different email campaign lists here that you want to add. Now here you can create a brand new email template from scratch if you don't have one pre-built. You can just click on the create new email template and it'll bring you actually to your email builder that we've shown you in a couple of different videos, and you can build out your new email email from scratch, or you can copy from maybe an email that you already sent or one of your templates. Now historical data applies if you want to go back in time and pull up previous contacts that have opened this email. So if you hit no, no is always defaulted on the system, just so you know. So if it's set here on no, it'll only enact future contacts that open this email. Whereas if I hit yes, what it will do is it'll have the action enacted for everyone that you've sent this email campaign to previously and that contacts that have opened. So the workflow will enact it in for all those previous contacts that the email is open for. So I'm just going to click back on no. Now I'm just going to show you this target segmentation, because this target segmentation is actually on all the triggers that you can see that are in the system. So I'm just going to go through it here on the open email, and I'll just show you within all the rest of where it's located, and it's the very same setup. So you can see here the target segmentation it's basically, it deep dives into those contacts that you want to target that match a certain criteria. So if you're adding, let's say here, now we'll just click on, firstly here, all active contacts on the chosen list. So that's everybody on the chosen list will go through that workflow that opens the email. Whereas if you have the contacts that match these criteria, we'll go through, I suppose, a filtering process for all the world. Now if you're adding multiple rules, you can decide whether it's match all of them or if you want to just match any. So if it's all of them, it'll be an and, so they'll have to basically fulfill the criteria of all the rules. Whereas if it's a match any rule, you see here, or that it'll enact if you had 3 rules here and it was match any rule, that if they fulfill the criteria of just one of the 3, then they'll go through that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to actually add a rule here for you. So as you can see here, there'll be 2 pieces here. We're just going to keep it on match any rule just for the sake of the video. So if you can see here, you have lots of rules that you can really drill down into specific subsets of your contacts. So in the drop down, you'll see various options. So you can see a lot of contact data pieces, personal data. We've also social data, company data, webinars data for attendance and attendance time. This will work for Zoom and for GoToWebinar. Now the attendance time will only work on Zoom and not GoToWebinar, just so you know. And in e-commerce pieces, you've got tons and tons and tons of different options. Finally here, I just want to show you, there's also your custom fields on specific lists. So if you've built out forms and you have specific fields and therefore gathering certain information, you can actually then choose those here as a rule to filter and pick up those contacts that match certain criteria. So there's lots of options here, and what we usually suggest is going in, having a good look and a deep dive into all those and just having a quick look at them one by one, and also looking at here the little options then within that list, because you can see here then you have different fields of a secondary option. So we'd go to lead score, for example. You have greater or less than, because it's a numeric based piece, whereas you might have could say tag name, which we'll come to actually, is or is not. And again, field piece, so you could say maybe country. So you can see is not, is empty, is not. So you have different options. So as I said, we'd usually recommend for you to go in, have a good look around, have a good see through those, the different options, have a play around with those. And if you do have any issues, you know, creating an automation, or you're a little bit confused on those, you can definitely give us a shout. We can help you out with that. Now for this video, I'm just going to do 2 conditions here, just as a first or secondary. So what we're going to do is we're going to match all rules. So you can see your changes to end. So what we're going to do is we're going to do lifetime. So if you click here into the search box, we go lifetime. So it's lifetime value of greater. So you can see here the options here have changed. So we'll go greater than 1000. Now what we'll do for a secondary rule is we're just going to type in title. So and again, you have different options here. So usually for text fields, I'll always kind of just say contains, because there might be just difference in spellings and things like that. So if you click on contains, we're going to go CEO. So what now this target segmentation is going to do, it's going to pull in everybody from the list that we selected in the trigger criteria, which is these 2 lists. And what it's going to do then is going to go through a filter system and identify contacts who have a lifetime value of greater than 1000 and have the title CEO. So what it's going to do is it's going to match the people who flow through the list and match those 2 criteria pieces, and only those contacts it's going to flow through the workflow. So ones that don't match those won't enter the workflow. So again, it's just an example to show you of how granular that you can get the information with your target segmentation here, you know, so you can really filter that and see who qualifies through the workflow, who should go through and who should not. Again, as I said, this target segmentation piece is the very same for all those. So you'll see the very same setup criteria and everything on those. Now, next to save these, you just hit save configuration, and that configuration piece is then saved. So next we're going to go on the click linked. So again, it's very similar setup of the open mail. You have your segmentation options here on the right hand side, which we've just gone through. You can change your identifier name. Next, you can choose the campaign that the link is in. So you have your different campaigns here. Now you can see here you have emails, and we've also browser pushes. Now we have SMS also in the next trigger box that I'm not going to dive into just for the sake of the video, but it's the very same setup as the 2 triggers we have just covered. So you can choose any of these messages, and then what you can do is you can filter it in of anyone who's clicked the link on those. So we're just going to pick 2 here for example, just to show you again. You can pick multiple ones, and what you'll have here then is drop down of the links contained in those. So it's just because there's no link within that piece that it's not picking up a link, but if there's a link inside in your email or your SMS or web push, you see the list here and you click on those, and again filter out those contacts to run through a campaign. Again, historical data is, you can go back in time if you wish. So what we're going to do is click save config, and the config then is closed. So next is abandoned cart. So again, very similar. We have our target segmentation up at the top here that we have gone through. You can change your label, so you could have maybe abandoned cart January if there was a certain campaign you were just running in January for this, or you know, whatever you wish to be changed to. So before I go into it, I just explain how it exactly works. So an abandoned cart is the moment someone clicks on an add to cart in your e-com store and they don't finish purchasing that item. They might just continue browsing on your site or maybe leave without purchasing. So that is an abandoned cart, and that's how it background of how it enacts. So if you see here on your domain, you'd select your domain because you might have 3 or 4 different e-com sites, so they might be all linked to your platform account. So here you can pick either one. So we're just going to pick on our own e-com one. Now to launch a trigger is when you want this configuration workflow to begin. So what you could do is you could create it today, have it up ready to go, but maybe launch it next Tuesday or next Monday. So you could just select those days and it'll only enact in on that day that you've triggered to launch. So nextly here is the contact enters the workflow. So our system adds on a 30-minute buffer time. So we're going to assume that it takes at least 30 minutes before visitor checks out their cart. So that's where you can see the 30 minutes of adding the first product to the cart. Or what you can do is you can select 30 minutes after adding last product to the cart. So what it'll do is it'll start to count down at 30 minutes after the last item is added. So if they have 2 items, they add a third item. 30 minutes here, if this is selected, will start an act. But if then they subsequently add a fourth item after maybe 5 minutes, then the 30 minutes starts again. So it enacts after the last product is added to their cart. Next, we have historical data. Now, again, the historical data goes back in time, but we don't recommend that you put this on the abandoned cart, because it might pull a load of older carts and contacts that might have purchased that might be really out of date in the past. So we'd always recommend choosing no here on that piece. Now, abandoned cart, it also requires a person to add to a cart, of a person that's added to a cart, of giving their email address to that add cart process for it to map over from your e-com store to your account, your automation account, to enact the workflow for the correct contact. So you might want to maybe enact on your site that if somebody adds the cart, that they're prompted to sign in or add their email address. That way your contact data will flow straight away over to your automation account, and you can enact your abandoned cart workflow for all, whether they be a known customer, a monitor contact, or completely anonymous. Once you get their email address of them adding to the cart, then you'll be able to enact this workflow. So again, we're just going to hit save configuration. Now, completed orders, very similar to how the abandoned cart trigger works with the layout here. Again, you have your target segmentation, which you've gone through, your trigger criteria. So you have your completed order, which you can change your trigger label. You select your store. Again, you can trigger it for the future. And now you can do the only one time or with each completed order. So here you can specify if this is enacted just one time per customer. Maybe it be that you want to send out a coupon just after the first purchase, so that'll enact that rule. Or maybe it's something that is with each order that a contact completes in your ecom store. So maybe if you have a thank you email or something like that, you could just choose the with each completed order. Again, very simple but very effective options that you can really hyper personalize your customer service after somebody has purchased an item from your store. Again, historical data, we'd always kind of really recommend no here. Again, it's just kind of moving forward with anything with the purchasing pieces. So if we just hit save configuration, now next we're going to click here on joined. So joined is probably most popular, and it's when people fill out a form that's maybe inserted to your website and then this connects to a list, or maybe you've done a mass import contacts that join the list, or maybe it's a Zapier API of a third-party system or a third-party software that you're using that is speaking to your automation account and pulling in contacts through an API. So again, here you can see target segmentation, the very same as the first one that we showed you, all the different rules and pieces. Then your trigger criteria. Again, you can edit your name piece for the title. Next, we have the drop-down list here. So again, you can pick your different lists in your account and select one, or maybe even select more if you wish. Now you can see here in the list, it also has the web push, browser push pieces here. Now this is for people who have approved an opt-in to your web browser push messages on one of your landing pages that you've built in the platform, not your website. We have a few videos on the browser push, so I'd recommend checking those out for more information on setting these up and utilizing both on your own website and in the landing pages that you build within your automation account. Now, we suggest really to have the web push trigger workflows separate to contact lists, as you may not have their email addresses because they might have just opted into a web push. So it's easier to have these separate workflows, as you might be able to target different actions to those. So we would suggest just keeping those separate. It's just good housekeeping, and it just makes more sense when you go to utilize your actions. So here again, you have an option here to create a new list if you want. If you wanted to create that of a brand new automation with a brand new list. Again, historical data to go back in time if you wish. So again, we're just going to save configuration. Now, reaching a goal. This relies on goals or KPIs that you set up in your account. Now, we have a separate video on setting up goals. So if you check that video out, it'll show you step-by-step process of how to set up these and utilize them on your automation account. So you can trigger an automation when somebody reaches a goal. So if you click on here, you'll see your list of goals and your drop-down list. I mean, you can choose whatever you want, whichever goal you want to enact in the workflow. Again, you have an option here to create a goal from scratch if you want. You have the trigger name, which you can edit. Target segmentation, the very same as we went through the very first time, with all your different options. And again, here in the target or the trigger criteria, you have your historical data to go back in time if you wish. So we're just going to hit save configuration. Now, next is custom event. Now, custom event is where you can access a lot more triggers that we just didn't display here on the left hand side because it would just clutter the screen and there'd be just far too many options. So you can see here, again, with your trigger criteria, you've got your target segmentation, which you can utilize, that we've gone through in the first trigger. So trigger criteria, again, you can change the trigger name. Now here you see there is quite a lot of information and options in the drop down list. You can see here there is, we'll pick tag added here, for example. So for this example, for instance, this is really handy. It means the moment that you attach that tag to a contact profile, it'll enact the workflow for that selected contact that's tagged with that. So again, here you can see there's loads of options. There is contact fields, lead scoring. So if you wanted to lead status of it, customers in a certain status of your sales funnel, or maybe it's a lead score of, we can just choose greater than 20 here in your scoring system, that it'll pull contacts that are greater than 20 points for that. Landing page engagement, when they're on your landing pages that you build in your automation account, of pages view, link clicked. Website engagement, again, is really powerful. So for example, you have a destination URL and maybe it's pricing for packages and you have a link within there to give more details on a specific package. You can run a rule to pull the contacts that go to that page and click that link. So then you could send an automated message of further information of, look, I know you're interested in this package, here's more info, maybe give us a shout, or maybe reach out to them directly on an email and contact them to create a conversation. Again, it's just, there's loads of information and specific details that you can target with your contacts to really filter down and be clever about your marketing processes and communication with your contacts. Now next you have email engagement. So you have your coupons redeemed. Webinars, again, it's your Zoom and GoToWebinar. Time spent is just applicable for Zoom, so just make note of that. And in e-commerce fields, there is tons and tons, again, of options here that you can choose from, like last visited by product name, last order total, last item ordered, lots and lots of stuff that you can pull and utilize again to be able to really maximize filtering down those contacts into certain different workflows. And again, tons of options to be able to really maximize your return and be really clever about your communication to your contacts. So here we're just going to hit save configuration again. Now next we have specific date. Now this is great because it can cover a lot of options and it doesn't have to wait for specific actions to take place. You can just trigger it once and it'll continue to be active on a continuous basis from the launch date. So again, you have your target segmentation, which we went through, all the different options. Trigger criteria, again, you have your label name that you can choose. You have your target lists here and audiences, which are the subsets of that you can see here. They're subsets of your contacts. You also have your web push lists that you have active on landing pages that you've built inside in your automation account. So you can choose any one of these. Perfect. And then you have your launch date. So again, you can choose a launch date. So if you build it today and you didn't want to launch it till Monday, you could just select Monday and it'll only start to enact there. Now, there's a little piece here I just want to show you on this one. So you can see here there's a one-time only, and there's also a reoccurring piece depending on what you want to do. So if you hit the recurrent, this will change the dynamics of the trigger. So you have additional options here of days that you can see below that you can select maybe a Monday or Tuesday to enact the rule. So again, you've different options here that you can choose for, or again, maybe it's a one-time only, it just runs once. Again, you've lots of different options to utilize. Now, if you're going to have any conditions within your target segmentation, just be careful because this one is going to run a rule for all. So if you just hit one time only, you pick a list, it's just going to flow through. So we just always suggest going in and just having a think before you actually enact it to who you actually want this to go to, and then utilizing your target segmentation for that piece. So we're just going to save that. Now finally, we have our API contact update. So again, you can see the trigger criteria, which you come to in a moment. Target segmentation again is the very same as all the other triggers. So you can see here you have your contact label, and you can select your list of those. Now, what the API contact update is, it listens to specific API calls that are sending contacts lists to your platform account lists that you have in your account. So this would be again a third party that's speaking to your automation account. Now again, we'll come to it here. You have your contacts that run through this one time only, so it might be just like a mass update, or else you can have a reoccurrence, so it's continuously feeding updates of contacts to the platform. So it's kind of handy because it's a two-way integration between your automation account and your other systems that are speaking to that. So you've lots of flexibility there that you can kind of get real-time information in through different systems into your automation account, just to keep that updated and to keep it very clean and effective. So these are the triggers that we have available in your automation account. I suppose really once you get the understanding of how you can begin your workflows, that's really what sets the pace for you to create super powerful automation processes, it'll even work while you sleep. So it's a really powerful tool. So once you get the triggers piece at the start, your actions then flow onto that, and you have just tons of options and really play with those. So as I said earlier on, maybe go in, select a few triggers, click into all those, have a look at all the different options, and maybe build out a few mock ones just to get to know those and play around with those a bit. So that's the video for today. If you've any other questions or need help with anything else, please submit a help desk ticket and we'd be delighted to help out. Thanks very much for reviewing today, and we'll see you in the next training video.